Let's get started with part 5. Now, time to talk about the short telephoto lenses. These have the complete opposite effect of a wide-angle lens. They make the background look larger and the subject look smaller. These are able to have a much blurrier background than you can get with a wide-angle lens or a standard lens due to the focal length being longer, which makes it very useful for portrait photography. If you have a subject who's self-conscious about their nose being too big or other features on their face being too big, you can use a telephoto lens to make them appear smaller than they actually are. The compression these lenses have can make your subject appear much skinnier than they actually are. Let's take a look at these comparisons. One was a wide-angle lens. The other one was on a short telephoto lens. They were taken at different angles, but they still illustrate my point perfectly. This was taken on the 24mm on the right-hand side. The grass looks ginormous while the background looks far away. Now, to draw your attention to the left-hand image, you can see that the background looks much larger, and the lighthouse looks much closer to the background than it actually is. Those trees were actually quite a ways back. As you can see, the foreground looks exceptionally flat. This is due to the fact that telephoto lenses have a higher magnification value. In case you're wondering, this is a photo of the Bodie Island Lighthouse in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Here are some more example photos taken with a telephoto lens. This compression gives the images a otherworldly effect. They almost look more like paintings than they do photographs, thanks to all that compression. Telephoto lenses allow you to focus on the shape and texture of the land. As you can see in this example, let's take a look at some portrait examples using a short telephoto lens. Again, in this example, notice how the background is blurry. Notice also how much closer the foreground objects appear to the background. Let's take a look at some more portraits. The advantage of using short telephotos is that because you don't have to be too far away from your subject to use these, which makes communicating with them much easier. Take a look at some flower photos now so I can better illustrate the advantages of using a short telephoto lens. As you can see in these first examples of these tulips, they have an extremely blurry background and compression. If I used a 50mm lens, the background would be much more distracting because it doesn't have any compression. Let's look at a downside to using short telephoto lenses. Photographing things at a left or right angle instead of straight on can result in the subject not really being in focus. As you can see in this example, this photo of this flower was taken straight on. However, the flower is not perfectly flat. Because of this, the first petal of the flower is out of focus. When you're photographing things up close like this, the front element of the camera lens allows you to focus on things that are different distances away. You need to choose which part of the image you want to be in focus. If you want everything to be in focus, what most people do is something called focus stacking. This is when you use your lens to focus on different parts of the image. Then, using a computer and editing software, you can stack these images together, having everything in focus. The only drawback to doing this is that your subject must stay perfectly still. The slightest bit of movement in your subject will cause this not to work. You also need to take into account if your lens's focus breathing, because this can also throw the process off too. Make sure to leave enough room to account for this. The other option is to stop your lens down. You don't have a blurry background anymore, but the subject will be in focus. Also note, your subject will not be perfectly sharp compared to focus stacking. Get ready for part 6.